Hello, welcome to Muscatine Viewpoint. I'm your host, Chad Bishop, and I'm excited that you've decided to join us on another episode of Muscatine's Viewpoint, where we feature local guests, local news, topics of your choosing. This is the public show. You can come out to be a guest. You can even come out and be a host. Give me a call at 288-6070 or email cbishop@eicc.edu. And let me know what you want to talk about. We can debate about different topics, bring things to light, learn from each other by respecting each other's opinions. Again, if you have a complaint, call me up direct, 288-6070, or call my cell phone, 563-260-1235. Don't call MCC or MPW. Please, I beg you. Have some courage. Call me direct. Now, having said that, we are going to focus on a couple different things this season, but I wanted to get a few candidates out. Specifically, we're going to do the Second Ward City Council members this season because they have 3 people running, and we've already had Jeff Osborne out and learned so much about his candidacy by having an opportunity for the candidates to come out and basically talk about their agenda in a more informal, long format fashion. To that end, we're excited to have Aly Glynn here, who's also running for Second Ward. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's been a while since I've seen you. I think you mentioned you came out here a long time ago for Youth Volunteer Corps. So kind of bringing back some memories.
About 20 years ago. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, thanks for kind of like that probably started it all, you know.
That was one of the things, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, before we get into your candidacy, just about yourself and your background.
Well, I'm a born and bred Muscatinian. I've lived here all my life. I left for about a year, and I came back, a little bit destitute, if you will. But Muscatine really opened their arms for me and took me back and helped to raise me up from where I was. So that was kind of nice. So my grandfather's side has been here as far back as we can trace, but my father's side obviously immigrated here from Mexico. So it's kind of interesting to see the blend of cultures, and I feel like it's very representative of Muscatine, especially with the minority and demographic that we have here. So it's very interesting to see that as I've gotten older. Otherwise, I have 2 children, one in Susan Clark Junior High, go Muskies, and he's a little football player. He's amazing. I really enjoy seeing him grow. The other one is in 1st grade at Jefferson School, and it's very interesting to see him kind of follow in his brother's footsteps and see him look up to his older brother and really grow in the community. So it's really nice to be back in my old childhood stomping grounds. So we used to live at the Grant Elementary kind of area, and then we moved back to West 3rd Hill, and I used to live up at the very top of the hill back when I was a child. So it's been very intriguing to see all the different changes and to see it kind of through an adult's eyes now, and to see my children, have their childhood where I had mine. So it's very fun.
Yeah. So at the top of the hill, the hilltop. But you've lived in Second Ward. It's one of your qualifications. Then is
right.
It sounds like you've literally lived in this particular slice of Muscatine all your life. Now you mentioned that you were kind of behind the scenes of a lot of organizations. Talk to us about some of the organizations that you're involved in, kind of your passions or hobbies in general.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I consider myself kind of a jack of all trades. I am very much so behind the scenes. A lot of people don't necessarily know my name, but they might have seen me at a lot of different activities, or scout camp, or as a substitute teacher, or all of these different things that I do, because I like to do it all. I don't feel a reason to limit yourself, and I figure if there's a need, just say yes and try and go for it. And I've really found where my passions are, and I have, like I said, quite a few of them. Yeah. So it's been very interesting. I do a lot on the local level, volunteer work mainly on the local level, A lot of my jobs, besides, of course, substitute teaching, a lot of my jobs go anywhere from Capitol Hill to Seattle to working for Disney there for a while in Florida. So it's definitely been an adventure lately in my adult life, and it's a lot of fun to kind of just do a lot and get out there.
Talk to us a little bit about what you like about Muscatine. I don't think you're running on a platform of believing that Muscatine is a horrible place to live and it needs changed.
No, definitely
so
not.
what are some things that stick out when you think about what you like about Muscatine? I believe you may have traveled elsewhere briefly, but something kept you here. And talk to us about some of the things you love about our town.
Well, like I said, I was, born and raised here. So we lived right next to the 4th Street Park area at the top of 3rd Street Hill. And one of the things that really struck me when I was kind of in my impressionable young adult era was I did leave. A lot of people, a lot of younger people, they discuss how they want to leave Muscatine and about more opportunities are out there. And there definitely are. I definitely recommend people get out, travel the world. But when I left, I found my heart always kind of wanted to be back home. And unfortunately, due to some circumstances, I did come back to Muscatine kind of with just the clothes on my back and a newborn baby. And I was a single mom. And it took me a long time to get back on my feet and to kind of get back to, getting myself back and my passions. Muscatine was definitely there for me in the organizations and the different resources and the community and the support. And so it's always been something that has stayed with me for the 15 odd years, that's happened. So I think it's my way of giving back to the community and how, I always have, but this definitely inspired me to do more and to kind of follow in those footsteps, because Muscatine, we really are just a community and we really do uphold one another. Muscatine is, I think it's kind of the underdog in some ways, but in other ways it's just a fantastic place to live.
So what kind of things come to your mind when you think about what needs changed? Because no town is perfect, no person is perfect. There's always opportunities for growth. What kind of stands out along those lines?
So when I think about Muscatine the way that it used to be, I used to think of it as, you couldn't go to the park where I used to live and hang out there on your own. You couldn't be there after dark. It was not very good gang activity wise in the area. It was definitely something that needed to be improved when I was young. Now, fast forward, of course, to me being there now, and I can take my children there. I have no qualms with walking down the street anymore. It's definitely improved. Of course, saying that, there's always going to be room for improvement. And when I was in, university, and when I got my LEED certifications, and when I got my, grant writing, all of these things that I just pursued, I realized Muscatine is doing great work. They really are. But of course, there's always room for improvement. And I think some of those aspects are things like, a lot of people don't know, we have an award-winning facility in South End for right next to the recycling and composting and all of that, because we have the Muscatine Organics Recycling Center. That is absolutely one of my favorite things down there, because it's kind of representing where we're going in the future. And I think that's definitely something that I want to see more of, especially since I don't think a lot of people understand the waste and the impacts of that directly on our community. The Organic Center, what we can do ourselves is, besides our trash refuse, besides our recycling, we can also recycle our organic waste. And I would love to see that implemented. And I know it's kind of in the process, it's being thought about now, but I would like to see it implemented, and I would like to help move that along.
Okay.
And other projects like that.
What is the Garden of Eden in the second ward? That just kind of reminded me. I know that's not organic waste, but that little garden park, that's awesome. That's some good stuff there. I don't know how that works, but you're just walking along, and then there's a garden there, and all the different ways that it's healthy to garden, but then to have those healthy, farm, neighborhood, block to table kind of opportunities that at some point do become organic waste that can be recycled.
Okay.
Are you affiliated, let's talk about environmentalism. You're affiliated perhaps with a couple of groups in town. CLAM is one that reached out to me recently asking my thoughts on global warming and who I thought was responsible or who's responsible for changing it. The individual, the lawmakers, the government, organizations, or environmentalist groups. There's kind of 4 people there. And one of the answers could be all of the above too. What are your thoughts if that multiple choice were posed to you right now?
Oh, I definitely think it's all of the above. I'm glad that there's an option for that. Because I think it depends, obviously, in how much they can do and the ways that they can do it. But I do think, especially with long-term plans, I think it's something everyone should definitely take into consideration. I know that in some ways Muscatine does do that, and I know, say for instance, MPW, our main energy source, I know that they take that into consideration. There's a lot of controversy around it, and there's a lot of hesitancy in some ways due to economy or community support or anything kind of along those lines. So my viewpoint is always, of course, the balance of 3 things like I was always taught, and that's, the community, the environment, and the economy. And as long as you have a healthy balance of the 3, then you're going to be able to support and really thrive your community. So I've been involved in quite a few things. CLAM is definitely one of them. I was a board member there for a while pre-pandemic. The pandemic kind of threw a wrench in a lot of things. So pre-pandemic, I was involved in CLAM, and I was involved in, Mom's Clean Air Force, which is more of a national level, but has a branch here. Go Green Muscatine. A lot of different people are trying to do good. And we might not always agree on how that comes about, but it's definitely something that I think people should get involved with, whether you're just an ordinary citizen like me, or an organization, or a nonprofit, or, I think the CLAM, I believe that they're associated now with, not associated with, partnering with Sierra Club. So I know that there's a lot of ways that people are trying to make a difference, and I think that that's kind of something that we should have inspire all of us.
Now, Muscatine is positioned in a different situation because we do have a lot of industry. I mean, all towns have it to some extent, but we have quite a bit. And there was an issue, apparently, with our air quality, and I wouldn't have known that to be a factual situation until, well, I'm assuming that there's settlements that have been distributed
Right.
Through lawsuits that are accommodating as much as you can financially for the people that breathe in some of that air. Technologies have allowed air to be cleaned in better ways than maybe 20, 30 years ago. But also I learned that there's a $2.1 million grant being awarded to the south end of Muscatine, and among other things they're going to do with it is to have a pickleball court. So that's kind of where I'm getting this idea that there's some serious things that are going on in Muscatine with respect to environmentalism, and that's the good side of that is that we can really make a positive impact on that specific environmentalist issue of the air quality in Muscatine. So what can we do as individuals? Now, environmentalist groups, what they do is pretty obvious. I mean, they're a group formed to educate and advocate for different things. I guess what I would like to ask you a little bit, what do you think about coal? It's being phased out. It's no longer a viable or healthy way to supply us with power. That leaves us with a couple options. I believe MPW is going with natural gas, and that's not a slam dunk. Everybody in the community agrees with it. I'll admit I'm not too sure about the ins and outs of that, but I do know that it would be expensive to switch to solar, wind energy at this point in time. is it worth having our bill go up $200 a month? Some people would say, yeah, as long as it ensures that future generations will have an environment to live on. But what are your thoughts on the future of our power here in Muscatine with respect to natural gas and alternative opportunities?
Oh, that is a loaded question and a lot to unpack there. So, like you said, the energy source of Muscatine in any community, any organization, anything, is always going to be very controversial. There's pros and cons to everything that we do, whether it's a renewable resource, whether or not it's coal, whether or not it's natural gas. There's always going to be pros and cons. What I think a lot of people fail to take into consideration is the short-term effects versus the long-term effects. Whether or not you, like, MPW is often confused with a for-profit organization. I don't believe a lot of the community knows that it's actually a not-for-profit, and it's primarily driven by community support, community request. And so, especially when you ask what we can do as individuals, go to, if you want change in MPW, if you want change from the coal to the renewable energy, which they are pursuing, and we do have solar arrays, we do have wind, we have those. But if you want more, if you want to see more, they release surveys. They have board meetings that the public can come to. We know who the people are on the board and who help make these decisions and the studies that they do. So ask questions, do things, go to the meetings, fill out the surveys, ask the questions that need to be asked.
And take a little personal control. Not everybody can afford to put a solar array on their house, or geothermal, where you dig a hole, to simplify it, and then use use that to condition your air. It's
Right.
expensive to implement, but over time, it pays back. But I'm pretty sure that MPW offers rebates for anything from light bulbs to, if you do, get a little bit off of their grid, they want that. And because they breathe the same air, live in the same community, they don't get raises based on how much or how little energy they provide. They are your reliable neighbor. At least that was their former slogan. So like you said, they have nothing. They have skin in the game because they're citizens on this planet just like everybody else is.
Yes.
And it's tempting to play the victim role, but I would advocate, if you do have extra money, instead of in one kind of immediate change, spread the word that kind of what you just said, which is what can you do as an individual right now? Well, after the show, obviously, because we got a couple more things to talk about. But right now, like you can do that yourself, and you don't have to wait for the government or an organization to make that change as we speak.
I do think that a lot of people don't realize that individuals have quite a bit of power. We can wait for government and organizations to do things, and I think that that's something that you can still do. You have influence over. You can write the letters, you can make the emails, you know who's on the board, you know who is in charge of certain things, certain aspects of your community. So ask the questions, do the things, make the change that you want to see done. So people like, myself, who I'm just an ordinary citizen that decided to run for office because I wanted to see something better. And that's not to say we aren't doing good things in our community, but I have ideas, and I think that there should be diversity out there. So individuals can do things such as, recycling more than they think that they already are, I should say. And hopefully if we get this organics recycling kind of centered, then recycle your organic waste. Find out what can be put in there. Because not only does it help our energy grid, because it does burn and go into our energy grid with a partnership with MPW and the lot, but it also helps our farmers. It actually gets broken down into fertilizer, and then it goes out into the farming crops. So there are so many things that we can be doing as individuals that I wish more people knew about. And if you see a need, if you see an office that's coming up for election, go for it. There is nothing saying that you can't. I mean, obviously, if you have the qualifications. If you're 16, maybe wait a few years. But if there's a need, try. and make the difference.
Now, in some towns, even dogs have been elected to mayorship, if you Google that. So anybody can really run for office. So one of the 7 deadly sins, critiquing, complaining, being a victim, like I love what you're saying, just go for it. I mean, make a change, not necessarily just blaming, kind of see what you can do about it. Keep things going in a direction. If you feel like there's something that you feel strongly needs to change. That's how we're able to, as a human civilization, continue to grow and prosper in some ways, and maybe get ourselves in a little trouble in some other ways. Speaking of global warming, perhaps. Now, what party are you affiliated with? There's a couple options: Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, none of the above. Next question. Those are your multiple choices. Or no comment.
Yeah.
But I think you'd have something that, to mention that.
Well, I actually get that question quite a few times, and even though the council is nonpartisan, and even though your race is nonpartisan, and even when you get into office, you're supposed to treat it completely unbiased, I believe that there's kind of a natural bias, and it tends to make you affiliated with one or the other. Now, myself, whenever I get that question, I tell them, yes, I am a registered Democrat. That's public knowledge. That's out there for anybody to see. But what do I think? What do I believe? Who do I vote for? Of course, those are all things that, like, who do I vote for? That's a little bit private. But I'm willing to tell you that I'm much more in the center than I think a lot of people realize. I don't necessarily believe that there's a strong, Republican vote towards how we budget. I don't think that there should be a Democratic one. There's so many things out there that you go with what your gut is. You go with what your belief is. And that shouldn't be a party affiliation. It's not something that's judged based on how you pigeonhole yourself like that. Instead, do your research. Find out exactly what you're going to impact. Find out who you're voting for, say, for instance. Find out, the different budgeting aspects, the different, like with the council, or how something's going to impact your community with, say, I don't know, the amphitheater that's coming up in the riverfront. So these are not matters that I believe are Republican or Democrat. I don't think it's anything else.
If they're spending $4 million on an amphitheater and it comes to city council vote, somebody might argue with a different set of values that maybe we should be spending $4 million investing in our homeless. Or you know how much food that would buy? So I'm actually challenging you that values do come into play and probably will come into play. But I appreciate what you're saying. That's not, you're taking it on an issue-by-issue situation,
Exactly.
Not necessarily an overall platform. At the local level, you don't even have to declare your partisanship, if you will, and that used to be the way it is, and it is in some towns at the local level. Like if you're running to be the director of a Girl Scouts group, for example, or whatever, and you each vote for each other. You don't, at some level, you don't. It's not Republican, Democrat. It's just leading and thinking for yourself.
That's yes. I think you summarize it quite well, that it's not about Democrat or Republican, especially within our community. We're just trying to do good. And I think everybody's doing that. Everybody's trying to, regardless of how you affiliate or how people get labeled, or it's just something that you're trying to do. So I do think that no matter who you are, no matter how you affiliate or how people might label you, if you want to do good, just do good and go with your gut, do your research, and just go for it. But when you say your opinions and when you say your viewpoints and when you have these discussions, I think it's a vital thing that sometimes is a little bit misplaced, especially in the climate right now, of not fighting about it, not coming at each other aggressively and attacking each other. I think that a majority of these things could be solved by simply having a discussion and not attacking with it. So I think that's something that a lot of people kind of need to work on right now, because I feel like there's so much negativity out there right now. So have the discussions, say your viewpoints, go out there and do your thing. But at the same time, keep in mind that just because you don't agree with somebody doesn't necessarily mean that they shouldn't be allowed to still speak.
Now that probably comes up a lot in your own household, because I noticed that your husband was jokingly challenging you to, if you were to win, to run against you in 4 years from now. That would be a fun candidate race. I'm not sure who's going to babysit on the third Thursdays if you both win and do separate elections. But what kind of thoughts come to pass on when I said that?
That is a joking manner in our house, but at the same time, it's actually serious. So I don't know if a lot of people will remember that last year we were both on the ballot for that year as well, and that was for the the soil and water conservation commissioners. And so we both ran, and we both ended up, I think, actually kind of stealing each other's votes, to be honest. And we didn't get the office, but a lot of good people did. So I'm in no way upset about it. So ever since then, we've joked, because he is very, very different than I am. He is, strongly Democratic, and he is. His viewpoints are different than mine in a lot of different ways, so it makes for very interesting dining room table talk. But we joke about it because he wants to do the same things that I do, and I think this year he's pretty supportive, and he's going out and talking to people and helping. But at the same time, in 4 years, I bet you he's going to run against me. Yeah. So whether or not I win this election or not, people are still going to see me, because I'm still going to be trying to do good, and I'm still going to be going out there and doing, running for office and, putting my hands in things. But he is too. And of course, since we're both in second ward, you're for sure going to see us probably battling it out.
So this just isn't lip service. This is you're proving it by being happily married.
Oh, yes.
So, because there would be conflict if you didn't actually feel this way, because people with different views or values can still live in the same house, but also in the same community, and without being, with respect for each other, and not necessarily agreeing with each other, but at least respecting their right to have their own opinion. Because we all come from such diverse backgrounds, sociologically, psychologically, even our biology, we're wired differently. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that. Now I want to wrap things up just a little bit. We could go on and on. I've got a couple other topics. I'll go ahead and move past those. But just talk to the potential voters now about what you'd like them to know about you and why they should vote for you.
Why they should vote for me. Honestly, I would like people to vote for me, not because of who I am or, for who I am, but what my name is, or because they know me from living next door. I want them to vote for me because they did their research. I want them to vote for me because they think that I am a great option for the city council. I have 2 other opponents that I'm up against. I don't know who they are on a personal basis. I don't really have an opinion. But I'm going to do my research on them. And if they're, who somebody wants to vote for, go for it. That's their kind of duty, mm-hmm. is to be educated on your vote. And if you want to vote for me because you think I am a good option for the city of Muscatine, I would love that. I would be very humbled by that, and I hope to do good. So I think my message to people when they consider this election is go out, talk to the people, contact me. I have my information out there for anybody who wants to see it. Contact me, contact the other opponents, contact every single candidate on the ballot if you would like, and really find out who they are and go with your gut. It doesn't matter, like I said before, it doesn't matter what party they're affiliated with or how old they are or what their education is, or, hopefully they're qualified, but if they can do good and make the city better, and it's somebody that you really want to see in office, then I hope you vote for them, even if it's not me.
Because you're not going anywhere.
I am not.
I'm
I
giving
am
you some
not
campaign
going
slogans.
anywhere.
Vote for me now, or vote for me in 2 years from now or 4 years from now, because I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not.
And that you mean that in a good way. You're just have a passion for helping the community within that you live.
Well, it doesn't matter if somebody sees me, like I said before, as a substitute teacher for their son that day, or, at the volleyball game doing concessions, or whether or not you see me downtown, or any of these things that I enjoy doing and that I'm involved with. If you see me out there, talk to me. But at the same time, I'm really not going anywhere. I have my roots here, and this is where I'm raising my family. And so I'm always going to be trying to be involved, whether it's in an election or whether it's just behind the scenes. So I'm really I'm not going anywhere.
Thanks for all the things you've done previously, currently, and in the future, and for being on this show. So, Muscatine Viewpoint, that wraps up this episode. We hope to have a couple other candidates for office, potentially, so that you can learn, just as Aly suggested, about who to vote for, kind of providing an educational service along those lines. But this show is much more than about candidacy. It's about sharing views, opposing views, learning from each other, and expressing viewpoints. If you want to be a guest, give me a call. You could even be a host. Come up with a topic. You can host the show. We've got it all set up. All you got to do is plop down in this chair here. I'll press record, and there you go. You're making some good TV. You're enhancing communications with your fellow residents. Now, if you happen to have a comment, you probably, or a compliment, give me a call. But most likely, if anything, you're going to want to complain about something. Give me a call at 563-288-6070, or email me. Or I'm on Facebook. I think that's the name. Yeah, Facebook. Look me up. It's not that hard to find me. Peruse my news feed. It's delightful. Contact me direct. I challenge you. If you want to complain about anything, but more importantly, get out here and be on the show. This isn't my show. This is the public show, and I've got a great setup here and opportunities to be on local access cable and on our YouTube channel. So thanks to our guest, and we hope to see you next time.